I'm not a girl, but a ghost.
A sickness of
Basic
sorts,
impression of all
refute
I could
through
think.
retorts,
How is
causes
it?
even a
The
filter
size of our
to be
population,
destitute.
Human,
in a
something
dense
I've
city,
never experienced.
surrounded by people, that I feel hopelessly alone.
In 2010, the Association for Psychological Science calculated the odds ratio for dying an early death. Polluted air increased your chances by 5%. Obesity increased your odds by 20%. Excessive alcohol consumption, 30%. But for loneliness, 45%. Perceived isolation is when a person feels hopelessly detached from their environment and that their relationships lack in any meaning.
When I think of isolation, I think of being alone, but not in a productive or constructive way. Isolation is a negative thing. It's either forced upon you or it's not your choice that you're alone. I read an article recently about a school who are trying a new system. If you felt alone, you go and sit on the bench. And if any children see another child sat on the bench, they know that they feel alone. And the school found that the system really, really worked. It suddenly became really obvious that someone was lonely and isolated. So it gave the other children the opportunity to help them.
Objective isolation or solitude is usually a voluntary choice, often healthy and necessary.
I've always felt when I've really been happy to be alone and isolated from people that there is a heightened creative feeling in my mental state. I mean, it feels exciting almost. It feels like you have possibilities and that you have time to achieve them, explore them. Knowing that you're not needed and wanted by anyone in that particular moment is really refreshing.
Human beings are fundamentally a social species and by definition create superorganismal structures to survive.
These days we're all very separated in our homes, in our lives, whereas it used to be very much more communal living, very village-based almost. Like the term, it takes a whole village to raise a child, that sort of thing. Being sort of devoid of that sensory connection to other things, other people, it definitely does things to you. I mean, I used to know that I would be constantly looking at images of people. I would be very interested in people, much more than I am now, because I sort of was deprived of that. That was sort of like my way to connect to people. I was so far away from everyone.
When deprived of social stimulation, our brains start functioning differently, reverting to a self-preservation mode, which activates neurobiological mechanisms for threat surveillance, degrading health over time.
It's always a dark and eerie feeling. You feel like you can never come out of it because you have nothing positive to look forward to. You don't want to be good, you don't want to do good because it doesn't make a difference. I've counted it over the years by using it to be productive. I try to make things in such a way that even if I am by myself and even if I have some scenarios where people don't understand me, I can manage myself mentally because I'm prepared for that. If you are connected to people, you're connected to things around you. When you stay too long by yourself, voluntarily or involuntarily, you start thinking on a level which is different than you would when you're in society.
In order to combat loneliness, you must understand what it does to your brain, your body, and your behavior, and respond accordingly.
First step is coming out of it, accepting it that, okay, I'm going through this phase, and be willing to share it and not be ashamed or afraid of it. Once you come out of that shell, I think things get a lot more easier. It doesn't depend on where you are, but it depends on your personal thinking, on how you want to come through it.
Intimate connections focus on singular relationships based on mutual trust. Relational connections are formed by sharing positive group experiences with friends or family. And collective connectedness occurs when you choose to become part of something bigger than yourself.
Really important for our health to have that sense of isolation and also to not be isolated. I think we need a little bit of both at times, and I think we forget both as well. I think there's a balance that needs to be achieved.
This issue is one issue that cannot be cured through medication. It needs to be cured through support, through help, and through care.
Isolation is something that separates an individual from everyone, but it's also something that binds everyone together because it's something everyone can relate to.